Hello, Cherries. Welcome to Live Cherry Sunday Special Monday, episode 242. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to use triads to understand modes. So this is going to be really cool. And I have a little loop that I created here, actually a couple loops. And I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate what I'm talking about here. I'm going to start off playing a couple of the modes. We're only doing the basic modes today, the church modes, the Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian modes. But I want to give you a little example of the first two, the major Ionian mode and the Dorian, which is actually not even the Dorian, the Ionian mode and the Aeolian, which is going to be kind of like a parallel minor thing. But you'll hear what I'm talking about right here. Check this out. Here's the loop. Actually, that was Dorian. Here's a little bit of a Aeolian. Back to major. Hopefully enjoying this. If you are, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let me say hello to Dana. Give you a round of applause. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit here on a Monday. Where else would you rather be? So I kind of wanted to come up with what I feel is like the easiest way of understanding modes here. And the way I'm doing it is I'm just figuring out the a couple of the chords from the parent keys of the modes. So I started off in E major, like this. Just an E major chord. And I'm taking the 4 and the 5 chord, which would be an A and a B. Back to the E. Just kind of like that. Really, really simple. An E chord here, A chord, and a B chord. And I'm droning it over the E, over an E major chord. So while this E on the loop is playing, I'm thinking we'll have an A major and have a B major also. You know? Back to the E again. So, you know, in the key of E, you have the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord. So you have E is the 1 chord, and the 4 chord is A, because you have E, F, G. No, the 4 chord is A, that's right. E, F, G, A, and then B. So you have a 1, 4, 5. You know. Sounds like a song, doesn't it? Hoping I get a copyright flag for that. Good morning from Seattle. Boy, do I love it out there in Seattle. I was just in, where was it? Arlington, Washington. Arlington, that's right, in Washington. And I flew into Seattle, and that was really, really great. Love it up there. So beautiful. Up in Seattle. Pacific Northwest. The roaring sound of the waves out there is just mesmerizing. I really, really love it. And what are you drinking out there? I have my coffee, and it's a little bit cold and bitter, kind of like me, but that's okay. That's why we get along. I'm just kidding. Or maybe I'm not. But, so anyways, so the beauty of this is that you can really understand the flavor of the modes by thinking of the simple 1, 4, 5 progression in the modes. So check this out. So here's the basic major scale. Right? So that's just the E major scale. Then you have the A and the B. So by playing those 3 chords, I know that it's E major. There's no question about it right there. Because I'm emphasizing the A, emphasizing the B over this E chord. So if there was music going on and there's an E in the background, and you were to play an A and a B, you know, you'd know, everybody would know that you're in the key of E major and it's an Aeolian mode. I'm not going to get too detailed as far as how to make stuff. Unless you really want to know, ask me questions if you want. If you're curious about if I'm leaving something out, which I'm going to be leaving a lot out. So you really know that that's going to be the key of E major right there. Like another major key, for instance, if people play mixolydian, which is more of it's a dominant chord, right? Well, the deal is here, it's like if there was an E chord in the background here, and you played the A and a B, well, there's no way that could be mixolydian mode right there. Because the A chord and the B chord isn't found in that E chord. Okay, if you're playing E mixolydian, right off the bat, that's going to be a 5 chord of something. And you have to do a little bit of thinking here for that. But really, when you play an E dominant chord like that, you're in the key of A. I mean, in the back of your head, you want to know that harmonically that you're going to be in the key of A right there. So if I was to do the 1-4-5 chord of A, you have A, B, C, D, and E. So you have A would be the 1, D would be a 4, and E would be a 5. So really it's a 5 chord of something when you think of this E dominant chord. You don't want to think really too much about that, but you want to know you're in E, but harmonically to get this sound, which is the, you know, that sound, which is not an E major Ionian sound that we just did. It's more of a bluesier sound. It's a dominant sound, right? You got to know that, well, the parent key is A, D, and E. So if I did the same type of thing, it would be over an E chord, over that same E loop, we would have the 4 and the 5 chord of A. So it would be a D and an E. And then you could throw in that A in there as well, if you wanted to. Like that right there. But really what makes it sound like is that D as well. That D right there. You can have a chord progression of that. Something like this. That would be a pretty good mixolydian progression right there. Or just something with this D chord. That shows off that I'm playing mixolydian, like over this loop right here. Check it out. When I played the major, the first thing, I played an A and a B. It was like this. So it sounds very, very happy. Now over the same chord, I'm going to play E major. I'm going to play a D triad. Check it out. Back to an E. A D. Oops. Then you have that scale. Which is the mixolydian scale. So, if you're enjoying this so far, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Jeffrey Boyle. Give you a round of applause. See, these are just different sounds that you're getting out of modes or moods. And I got to give credit to Frank Gambale for the idea of this. There's a great video called Modes No More Mystery. You could even check that out online on YouTube. There's free clips in there. Actually, I bought the DVD. I loved it so much. I never watched it because I got the idea of it from just watching on YouTube, but I supported the cause and I went ahead and bought the DVD. And but I would recommend checking that out too. Frank Gambale, great, amazing guitar player, to say the least. And he came up with this concept where we would just play the 4 and the 5 chord of the parent key of modes. So what I did, that second one right there that I played before, was over a minor. And I said I was going to do Aeolian, but I wound up playing Dorian mode in there. So I just kind of had to go with it, had to roll with it, right? Because that's what you're doing a lot of times when you're playing. You just gotta have to roll with it. So any questions about any of this stuff so far, let me know. So it's really cool. So if you take another major chord over the same loop, right? Just a major chord. Right? May have a few different types of E's up there. But if I wanted to play like a Lydian sound, right? You hear Lydian a lot, right? Well, right? You know, what is a Lydian right there? Well, it is, if I was to switch this E chord to be a Lydian sound, well, I know that it is in the key of, the parent key of an E Lydian would be a, what would it be? It would be a B, right there, okay? So, B is the home key of E Lydian, right there. So if I thought of B, well, what is the 4 and the 5 of B? Well, the 4 of B is E, and the 5 is F sharp. So if I play the E chord on this loop, and I droned an E chord and an F sharp chord, I'm going to get the sound of Lydian. Because the parent key is B. B, E, F, no, B, C, D, E. E is the 4 chord, and F sharp is the 5 chord. So I'm going to drone an E chord, and these are all just major triads, just like the title of this video, using triads to understand and play modes. E, major triad, F sharp, major triad, just like this. E major triad, F sharp, major triad. Over this chord. So check this out. Here we go. Just love that sound, right? Isn't that cool? Nope, that's not it. So that's the sound of airy. That's right. It is very airy. It's very like alien sounding, right? That's why Steve I and Joe Satriani, I always think of those two when they think of the Lydian mode, because they use it a lot in a lot of their songs and they're playing, and they've talked about it for many years of modes. Excuse me. And love the mountains and the coffee. That's absolutely. Isn't that where Pete's coffee is from? And Starbucks, of course. All coffee comes from the Pacific Northwest, it seems. A free live interactive music lesson from any location. This may be the beginning of a new music revolution. Definitely a community enriching endeavor. Many thanks to you. Thank you, Patrick. Really appreciate that. That is very kind. You nailed it. That's absolutely right. I love it. I don't know if it's completely revolutionary, because people are doing it, you know. But I'll tell you what, the one thing that I do it because I love doing it. I love to play. I'm going to play anyway, so might as well, you know, have you come in and hang out with me here for a bit. That's really cool. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Patrick, very kind of you. So, but any questions about this, let me know. I mean, these modes are really, really cool, and I could see it being very confusing, but it's really beneficial because there's sounds. There's 7 sounds here that you can get. 7 different sounds, not just one sound. A lot of people will just kind of stick with a certain sound, and you know, which is this sound. This is a very common, popular sound here in music, and it's this right here. I mean, that's a rock and roll sound. That's the minor pentatonic / blues scale / mixolydian mode. You know? I added a little bit of embellishment there, but it's, you know, it's a certain sound. But why limit yourself to that sound? And, or you might go, okay, well, there's a second sound. There's minor. And then people will play minor where it's like this. And that's a minor right there. Minor with a major 6. That's a Dorian mode right there. So that's a second sound, right? But you might want to play like a natural minor, which is very beautiful. Which has a C. And that's another sound. That's a third sound. A fourth sound would be like that Lydian that I just played. It's a fourth sound right there. So right off the bat, there's the major sound, there was the Dorian sound, there was a Lydian that we played, and we played an Aeolian. So there's 4 sounds. There's a 5th sound, mixolydian. Straight up like that, you know. And there's another one. There's a Phrygian and there's Locrian, which is probably a little bit more odd, but we're going to get to that. And the easiest way is to play that and to hear it and to understand what it sounds like. Dana, can you explain how you figured out the parent key again? Yeah, that's such a great question. And thank you for catching me on that one, because I wanted to come back to that. I wanted to circle back to that. All right. I guess if you were in the key of C, just to keep this straight up, you know, if I played a C chord, you have a 1-4-5 C. F, and G, right? There's a 1-4-5 in every key. If you're in the key of C, you know that it's C, it's an F, and a G. Right, so you know that sound. 1-4-5. So every key has it. And the reason why I'm thinking about 1-4-5s is because when you play different modes, you're really shifting the key. You're playing in parallel with each other. So take that same idea, go back to E. You have an E, you have an A, and a B. That's the 1-4-5. Okay, now when I went to the next mode, Dorian, the E Dorian is really the second mode. Okay, if you can remember this for a second, you have the in the E major scale. If I started on F, the second note of E major, and I played those notes of the E major scale, it would sound like this. That's a F sharp Dorian mode, but really I'm still playing an E, right? That's the whole thing. Still playing an E. Like if I play that E chord like this E major chord, and I played from F sharp to F sharp, it would sound like this. No, it wouldn't sound like that. It would sound like this. No, it sounded like this, sorry. That sounds pretty cool. I'm starting on the second degree, but it's the same sound as major, E major. Right? Or this. I mean, it's still the same exact scale. So having said that, we want to hear what Dorian really sounds like. So I'm going to play an E Dorian. So if F sharp, oh, sorry about that, some noise going on. If F sharp was the second mode of E here, well then E is going to be the second degree of what? Of D. So D chord right here. D major, the F is going to be the 2 right there. Let's check it out. So D, if I play D major scale, D, or here. The E note will be the second degree. So really, E Dorian is going to be the key of D. Now hopefully you understand that, because that's very important to understand that. Because E Dorian's always 2. Think of it as 2. Well, 2 of what? Well, E Dorian, we want that sound. It's E is 2. Okay, if E is 2, then what's 1? D. You're just going down the alphabet. So D is 1, E is 2, and so on and so on. So E is going to be the same notes as the D major scale. So if I play D major, but I started on the F sharp or the E, like to D. So the whole idea with this lesson as well is, now that we know that it's the key of D, we want to know what the D is, the parent key. What's the 4 and 5 of D? D, E, F, G. G is the 4 chord, and A is the 5 chord. So if I hold this E note, I let this drone, or I just play an E chord like this. If I play a G chord and an A chord over this E minor chord, it's going to sound like Dorian. Because I'm playing the D, I'm playing the key of D by playing this D, the G, which is the 4 of that, it's highlighting the notes of the E. And while I have this E droning, the E, the bass kind of rules, right? Whatever the bass is doing, I think Sting said that best, is the bass is rules everything. It's not a E until the bass plays an E, right? Let's get the E here. So if I, here, like a real New Yorker. G chord, A chord. Over the E minor. Because this highlights the chord, the notes of Dorian. Check it out, over this E minor chord. Here's the E minor. Even though it's E minor, I'm thinking in my head D major. Why? Because E, Dorian is always going to be the 2, right? Well, what's a 1? D. Simple as that. E, 2, and 2. Go back in the alphabet. I know I keep reiterating this, but I really want you to understand this. D is 1. Okay, so if D is the 1, what does it sound like? A D over an E minor. Well, it is what it is. What do you think? There's a D over an E. A lot of people play that together. It's a D back to an E. But I'll take the 4 and the 5 of D. So what is that again? D, E, F, G. And these are all major triads. 1, 4, 5. So here's a G triad. And then an A. Back to an E minor. Now that's the sound of Dorian right there. Right there, that's really the sound right there. If you really want to hear a Dorian, it's like this. So it's that sound that's kind of like, it's that note right there. And what is that note? Well, that's the 3rd of this A triad. So it's just an A triad, right? G triad. There's a D triad. E minor triad. E minor triad. D, G, A, E, G, nope, A, E, G, A, E minor. So that's really the sound of Dorian by just playing triads. That was a very long explanation for that, hopefully. So, explaining, figured out the parent key, which is really, really important. The parent key over Aeolian, which is major. E is the parent key. That's the parent key. So we can figure out 1, 4, 5 easily from that. E, E, F, G, A, and B. But if I was to switch it up, like I was just doing, if E is now Dorian, so Dorian is 2, we're going back, we're cycling back to D. And then you got D as the parent key now, because D is 2. Now let's go up one more notch, check this out. If we wanted to play Phrygian, we'll say this, E is Phrygian, we have to circle back. Phrygian is always 3, right? Well, what's the 3rd note? If E is the 3rd note of the major scale, what is it? Well, here it is. Let's go over to this screen right here. Check this out. If E, sorry, I should have been here all along. E, it's no longer E major. If E is the third note, it's C. Going up the C major scale. E is the third note of C, right? So we know that just like E was the second note in D major. That's how we figured out the Dorian of D. Well, now we want to figure out the third. Phrygian is always the 3, right? So the 3 is of C. So now C is the parent key. If I want to do a 1, 4, 5 in C, C, F, G. But at the same time, I have my E. Because Phrygian is a minor. If I was going to play, if you're going to play a Phrygian mode, it's a minor. It's always that way. My knees hurt. Says C major. Yep, that is the parent key. And Patrick, thank you. The revolutionary part is up to the student. You nailed it. That's absolutely true. And Cosmic Dogs, glad to catch this. All right. I'm glad you caught it and are catching it as well. This is really fun. I love this stuff. So we're C, right? You have the C, F, G. But, we're in E minor because the 3 chord is a minor chord all the way around. E, the minor third, the 5th, it's a straight E minor triad. Now you want to get to the sound. What's the sound of Phrygian? Well, by knowing what the 4 and 5 chords are and the parent key, you could determine that. Over an E minor, you could even hear that. Check it out. So if I hear this E minor going, and you're like, well, you know what? The band's playing E minor. Am I stuck to just playing, E minor? E minor pentatonic? Well, no, you're not. Because that's the sound of E minor, yes. And you could play that E Phrygian. But if you want a Phrygian sound, well, think for a second. Okay, we're C. You have a C chord in there. Then you have the 4, which is F. Okay. Wow. And G. Then you have that F chord over the E minor. How's that sound, right? Let's see what it sounds like. Check it out. E minor. Sound of Phrygian. E minor. F triad. That's one way of understanding the sound of Phrygian right there. That's another sound. That's a, how many sounds is that? That's like 6 different sounds. And it's great for writing music, you know, understanding, getting more of a ethereal type of sound, I guess that would be a word. To play in the Phrygian mode, key of C, parent scale, do you have to play an E minor chord over the Phrygian scale to make it correct? To sound like a Phrygian mode. Yes. I'm hearing a car go by with a heavy bass going. I know they're doing some construction here in the place today, but I thought it was a little bit later today, but we'll go with it. That's a great question, Clarence. Yes, you do. To play the Phrygian mode, key of C, parent scale. See, that's the thing is when you think of Phrygian mode, you got to think of the note you're playing the Phrygian in. If you're thinking E Phrygian, you have to play an E minor chord. Yeah, so an E Phrygian was going to be an E minor. If you were to play a like a C chord over that, and an F, and a G, you know? Like, check this out. Check this out right here. Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna play, I'm gonna record this progression right here. Just go. That's just a C, F, G. And I went and I played the E Phrygian scale. Right, that's the E Phrygian mode right there, right? The problem with that just save that. The problem with that is that you don't hear the Phrygian at all. You're hearing the C Aeolian because that's a C major Aeolian progression. It doesn't matter what start or finish notes I'm playing, I just played that. But if I was playing an E, you know, if I was playing that right there, if I played something like, you know, if it was something like this right here, or I was put another progression over this E, if it was more of a like a E, no, it would be a yeah, like that. If I was like E minor, F, G. Let's do that. So everyone. You know, or something like that. Or if it was more like a, that seems a little fast. Anyway. If I did something like a, if I was up here like this, check this out. Sorry. Check this out. There we go. If it was like a like an E minor like that. Check it out. You're like. That's more of an E Phrygian progression right there. So you really hear that a little bit more, right? Emphasizing more of the chords. I'm playing the chords of C, but I'm droning the E over there. Maybe a better example is going back to how I was doing it at first, which would be just ringing out the E chord and playing triads, like playing the C, or playing the Phrygian would be, let's see, C, F, and G, right? F just like that. That's really the sound right there of the E Phrygian. E minor chord in the background. F, G, E minor. Hear that right there? That's the chord. So here's an E minor. But now, if you play F over there, no, that's not enough. Hear that rub? It's almost like a metal thing to you. You know, that's Phrygian. That's the sound right there of a Phrygian, and it's dark sounding, and it's that's what it's supposed to be. So hopefully I answered that. Playing Phrygian mode, so got that Phrygian scale correct. So yes, if you want C Phrygian, then it's a whole nother thing right there. Then you're in the key. Then the C is the third of something, right? I've heard of the chord played over the scale. Trumps the scale, the chord sets the mode. That's right. The chord rules. That's what it is. And Dana, it sounds very major even though it's the E. Right. Yeah, it sounds very major. That's going back to when I was playing that C major progression, even though it's an E Phrygian scale. So it's right. And that's a lot of things that confuse a lot of people too, is just because you're playing the scale doesn't mean it's going to sound like that. It's not really even an E Phrygian scale kind of in a way. That's the thing that kind of stumped me, like when I first was learning these, is that, like, you know, it's like, well, here's an E Phrygian, you know, here's an E Phrygian, if you play 3 notes per string. You know, well, if you're playing that over a C major chord, right, it's not going to really sound like an E Phrygian. You know, it's going to sound like you're starting with on the 3rd degree of C. It's the major of C. Then that would be Phrygian. That classic 50s turnaround right there. Whoops. You know, like that. But you want to emphasize that, play it over the minor chord. All right. Having some fun here. Yes. Yes. I love it. And Clarence, Jerry, thank you for taking the time to explain, demonstrate my question. You're the greatest. I am not the greatest. Muhammad Ali. Now he's the greatest. Thank you very much, Clarence. So cool stuff here. So, we did some of the Lydian already. Lydian, we figured out, well, Lydian's always the 4. Just remember this. In the modes, the church modes, major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Then you have, each mode has like the 1 Ionian, 2 Dorian, 3 Lydian. This is good to know. 3 Phrygian, 4 Lydian, 5 mixolydian, 6 Aeolian, 7 Locrian, and back to 8, which is 1. So we figured out that E is Lydian is 4. So what is 4? What's the 4th degree of a major scale? And here's the twist in your mind to figure out what your parent key is. And that should have been what the title of this video is, actually. How do you find the parent key? Maybe I'll switch that when I edit this. So you have, if E is the 4th chord of what? It's like a joke, a brain teaser, right? Well, go down to E here and see for yourself. Well, here's E, here's the note. That's the 4th of what? Like the straight 4th. Well, if you know your intervals visually, then here, that's the 4th. It's B. So B, that's the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the B major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I keep in mind this E over this B scale, if I played it all the way through, but starting on the E, I'd have this. And that's how I have that sound, that Lydian sound. So I take the B key of B. Well, here's the parent key. What's the 4 and the 5? Well, the 4 we discovered already is the E, and the 5 is the F sharp. We did that already. Okay. Over B. So we know that we want to play E Lydian, right? So E is our foundation now. E, it's also a major chord, but we're in the key of B, really. So there's the 4 chord, F sharp, there's the 5 chord. So over that E, I'm going to let that ring out. And you have, so here's the E down here, triads. E, F sharp. And that's how we got that sound over major, like this. Oops. I don't know what mode that was. So, pretty cool right there, right? Just to get that sound, and that's the sound of Lydian. Right there, we did that one already, but now without even really soloing there, it's a great, great, great thing because you're establishing the sound, and you know that it's going to be the notes of the B major scale, but you're in E. So ultimately, you want to think E Lydian. So if you're thinking, well, here's those chords, the E and the F. You can think of your E Lydian scale within that and use those as like target notes, because that's really the beauty of this as well, is knowing that you have an E chord ringing. And here's the E triad. F sharp triad. what are these notes doing to the E major chord? Well, F, that's going to be a ninth over that. It's like this. Right, so that. Now what about this one? The C sharp, which is the fifth of F sharp. What does that do? It's a sixth degree of E. Because I remember when I play this chord, it's rubbing against these notes. Right there. So these notes are all rubbing against these notes together. So this note is rubbing, so it's going to sound like this. So it's like a sixth chord, a sixth E, 6 or 13, whatever you want to say it. So you have that sound. And then one more, you have this one. And that's really the sound that's giving it that low, that Lydian. And it's like this. You know? You know? Just like that. So if you just did that, that would give you a sound of Lydian. You know, or just even that. That's the whole chord right there. It's the sound of Lydian. So I'm seeing how these chords work over each other and what they're doing to each other, because that's ultimately what's happening. If somebody's playing an E chord and you want the Lydian sound, all you got to do is play an F sharp over it. And everyone knows that's Lydian now. Alright, so if you're like, okay, I want to hear a Lydian sound, all you have to do is go like this. That's an F sharp triad. Anywhere on the neck. Play it here. F sharp. Play it right here. Play it right here. Because of this note. That's not it. So, cool stuff there. Really enjoying that. Hopefully you are. The Lydian. Now what about when we did mixolydian a little bit, we heard the D over there. We established that was A was the key. Because if E is now mixolydian, so E is 5. Well, what is 5 exactly? Well, here's E. E, if I know my intervals right, well here's the shape. Here's 5. A, key of A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. E. So E is the 5th note in the A major scale. If I played it like this. Starting with the E, it would sound like this. Whoops. That's how you have that. That's the sound of mixolydian, right? But really it's key of A. So A, the 4 is D, and E. So if I had an E major chord, and I play a D chord under it, going to sound like this. A lot of songs are like that, you know. Right? You know. And it's the sound right there. D, E, D, E. And from the key of A, check this out. That was the tritones of it. The D. That's not it, right there. Key of A, right? So it'd be like this, like a 7th and the 4th. So like Bad Company sounding, right? And that's like a classic rock sounding song. And all I'm playing is a D, an A, back to an E. And that's like a sound of mixolydian just by using triads right there, knowing the parent key, which is cool, you know, and it allows you to establish the harmony and the feel of it. And all it is an E chord. And we've already played 3 sounds that are completely different over one chord. One of them was E major. That's E Aeolian, right? So we established E was there. Then the one we just did, totally different. And then the other one was E Lydian right there. And that's just by knowing the parent key of it. Really, really cool. I think we have one more. We have one more here, then we're going to wrap it up. And if you're enjoying this, hit that like button so far. If you're enjoying it. And Clarence, thank you for taking the time to explain and demonstrate it. You are the greatest. Oh, I read that already, but I'll read it again because I could never hear that too many times. Thank you. Cosmic Dogs, having a blast. Awesome. Thank you very much. I'm having a blast too. That's very, very kind of you. Glad you're enjoying it. And which one did we not do? Let's see. Out of the modes, I think Aeolian we established was the 6th degree. So what is that? The 6th. If the E note is the 6th degree of a major scale, what is it? Well, I know by my shapes, intervals, that it's G. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's G major scale. Love the t-shirt. Yeah, I just picked this up just a few days ago over at Ted's Fine Clothing. Right in the, where is it? It would be, I guess it's the East Village, New York City, right on Orchard Street. I guess it's just south of Broome Street on Orchard. Just go say hi to Chuck, or Charlie, or Charles. I call him, he doesn't care what I call him, really. But his name's Charlie, or Charles. I don't think he likes Chuck. There's another guy down the street named Chuck. Works at the Cast, another t-shirt place. That's a lot of information right there, right? So anyway, E is the 6 of G. So if we're playing E minor, we know that Aeolian is a minor. You have to know that. It's a 6th chord is a minor. Well, if you have G is the parent key, well, what's the 4 and the 5? Well, C and D. So over that minor chord, we played a C and a D. Check it out. There's a C. There's a D. E. C. D. E. C. D. Why are people afraid of this note? It's like my favorite. Here's the E minor scale. I'm gonna play this note. I call it the Randy Rhoads note. The sound of minor. And that comes because of the C chord. What about the D? Play a little rock thing right there. Oops. That was wrong. That was Phrygian. All right. Cool. Hopefully you're enjoying this and have enjoyed this. Loving the tea. Thank you so much. And Clarence, thank you. All right, guys. Very, very kind of you. Thank you very much. I'll just mention here that, what am I going to mention? I don't know. What do I mention? Of course, can't go anywhere without just mentioning my guitar course here. It's called the Essential Skills Collection for Guitar. Check it out. It's in the link, top of the description right here. I go over 4 important topics. Fretboard memorization. That's how I'm really quickly able to locate all the intervals. Simple way. Then we also talk about the circle of fifths, talk about blues soloing, and I go over this thing about with the cage system and chord progression. So it's really great. Spent a lot of time creating that. It's in the description. I would appreciate it. Please check it out. So any questions about this stuff, please let me know. Any ideas for future guitar lessons? We go live every week here. I think next Sunday I'll be back to the regular Nope. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm going to Ludlow, Massachusetts on Saturday. I think I'm coming home that night or Sunday morning. I don't know. I have to let you know if it's going to be Sunday or Monday again. Sorry about that. I'll leave you a post in the community tab. If you're subscribed, you'll see that. So, Dana. So it is the 4 and 5 chord of the parent key played against the chord created from the scale degree in the key. Exactly. In this case, it's the minor 6, which is Aeolian. Is that correct? Absolutely correct. Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Dana. It's the E notes, because that's what you want. You want the E minor, right? And if you want Aeolian, well, what is E? If E is the 6, what key is it? Okay, well, your parent key is C. Your parent key is C. You got it. And parent key is C. Now that you know C, well, you know all the chords now in C, but let's get down to it. Narrow it in. You don't want a bunch of chords. You want just the 1, 4, 5. So C, you have F and G. Now think about what that F chord does over the E minor. It does this. That's the sound of. And that's Phrygian. That's like Metallica all the way, or every other death metal band. You can't get away without playing Phrygian. And if you want, you take it a step further and you take Phrygian dominant by making it major. You know? That's a whole nother lesson. You just take it, instead of being minor, you make it major. Right? Like this. But it would be. Right there, like that. So yeah, absolutely right. And so, very, very cool. And I'm glad that this was helpful. Hopefully it was helpful to you guys. I had a good time playing here today with you on a Monday, and I think it's beautiful out. I'm going to go out and kind of enjoy some of this day. It was I just got back yesterday from a gig. It was one gig out in Indiana, and it was really a lot of fun. It was outside. It was at the Bacon Festival. Crazy. It was in Delphi, Indiana, and every year they have this thing. It's called the Bacon Festival. Apparently, they produce more bacon out there, a more pork-based product. Sorry if you're a vegetarian out there, than any other city or state is in Indiana, Delphi, Indiana. So I have this a whole bacon day, and I tried they giving out samples, bacon on this, bacon on that, bacon wrapped in bacon, ice cream bacon, and it was delicious. I got to admit it. I mean, it was just amazing. So that was in Delphi, Indiana. We hardly ever play with any other bands, but we played with 2 other tribute bands. One was a Cars band called My Best Friend's Girl, and there was another band, a Queen tribute called Majesty, and they're from England, and man, they were really great, cool guys. And there was a first opener called BK, short for something I don't really remember, but they were just a husband and wife duo, and the guitar player straight out of the 80s. I mean, he was so good, quintessential 80s guitar player, and I loved it because that's my thing right there. And he was so good. BK and his wife was a great singer. And it was just a day of fun. We came home yesterday, and that was it. So thank you guys for hanging out here with me. Really, really, really cool of yous. And so remember, be cool, be kind, and be cherry. And if you want to see another video I created on the major scale modes and 3 notes per string up the neck, check that out right up there. And I love yous, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day. Peace, y'all.